Welcome to audiotutes.com. My name is Mo Volans. In this set of tutorials we'll be looking at sidechaining. We're going to be learning how to set up sidechain routing in Logic, Cubase and Reason. I'm using Logic Studio 9, Cubase 5 and Reason 4. They're all the latest versions. But to be honest, if you've got earlier versions it's not going to be too much of a problem. The routings remain the same throughout. So we're going to start off with Logic. And I'm going to be showing you how to route sidechaining with a kick drum and a musical loop in each program. I'll try and use the same sounds so we get as much consistency as possible. As you can see, I've already got the kick drum and the music loop set up in Logic here, and you can see that I've just basically mixed them. They're both dry, they're both pure audio. I think that the musical loops, it's a basic piano loop, house loop from an older tune, and it was a Rex file, and it's just been imported as an Apple loop, so that they're both working at 128 BPM. They're both locked. I'll play them now so you can hear what's going on without any sidechaining, and then we'll look at how to set up the processors and the routing to get the sidechain working. So you can see that without the sidechaining, it sounds pretty good. But if you added some more elements, if you started to add bass and some kind of top line synth or whatever, and even vocals, you're going to start losing the definition of the kick drum or any other drums that you add. Obviously, you'd add more drum parts. But with the sidechaining, what's going to happen is we're going to insert a compressor onto the piano loop, and the aim of the game is to get the compressor to duck or apply its gain reduction as the kick fires. So let's insert a compressor, and I'm just going to use a stock Logic compressor. There it is. Obviously this is its default setting. I'm just going to zero it out. And currently, if I now play that, no gain reduction should occur. Our ratios turn to 0 and our thresholds turn to 0, so we really shouldn't get any gain reduction or any processing at all. Up here you can see there's a little sidechain drop down menu. If we open that up, straight away you can see that there are the audio files that we've got available, or that we've got inserted, are already available in the list. And any other input these are all from my sound card. But you can also use buses and any input, but you can't use instruments. So if you wanted to use an instrument as your sidechain input, you'd have to feed it to an auxiliary bus first, and then you'd be able to use it as an input. So let's just straight away, we'll just activate that as the kick. You can see this audio 1. And we'll start to play it. Again, you'll not sort of hear any gain reduction yet because we haven't set any haven't set the parameters correctly on the compressor. But as I start to raise the ratio and bring the threshold down, we're going to start to hear the gain reduction occurring. Now currently we've got it on RMS, so it's acting on the average level of that kick drum. Really we want it to be on the peak, so that it's reacting on the peaks of the kick drum, especially in this type of sidechaining or ducking. We want it to be a nice pumping effect, so we're going to use a peak mode, and then we're going to time the release, which is the speed that the gain reduction recovers after it's occurred. So we're going to try and time it to the tempo, and you can do that visually at a mixture of using the visual feedback and the sound of it. You want a little bit of attack so that it's not snapping so much. Now you can really hear that pumping, and you can hear it ducking, and that's basically it. You know, that's how you set up sidechaining in Logic. The routing is very simple, and you can really use any processor that has that sidechain drop down menu appear up there. So you can check with the manufacturers if they're compatible. But if we look at the FabFilter Pro C, for instance, which is a really nice simple compressor, until you get into sidechaining, it's simple at least. If we hit the expert button down here, we can go to external sidechain, and we can see that the sidechain up here is exactly the same as in the Logic compressor. We can select the kick. I tell you what, I'll just bypass the original Logic compressor we used there. I'll put the threshold to 0 and the ratio to 1, and do exactly the same as we did last time. I'll start to fade them in, and you can hear it. You'll be able to hear it pumping. You can see that's pretty much exactly the same effect. So I know the Synaxis plugins work with sidechain in Logic, and this one does, and there's undoubtedly a few more that work well. Like I say, as long as you see the sidechain input here, the plugin is capable of this type of routing. So, you know, check your favorite compressor, see if it's working. If not, choose one that you like the most. I personally prefer the sound of the Pro C compressor, and it has a frequency dependent sidechain circuit, so you can filter out parts of loops and only have the low end trigger the sidechain or the key input, which is really useful in some situations. And I think I prefer the interface a little bit, but of course it's up to you. Just quickly as well, it's not just compressors you can use for sidechaining. You can also use gates, not the enveloper. So let's have a look at the noise gate, which is obviously going to be like pretty much the opposite effect, but with faster running percussion, if you used you know, a stick or a closed hi-hat, you can actually sort of set up a traditional sort of trance gate and rhythmical gates using that technique. You know, that's a really simple way to sidechain things. So there we go. That's sidechaining in Logic. It's a very quick technique and very easy to set up. In the next section, we'll be looking at Cubase 5. And Reason 4, and how to do the same thing in those applications.